Hey guys, welcome to Guitar Education. So today we're going to talk about sweep arpeggios. So now basically all sweeping is just a simple technique of just running across the strings and running like back and forth. So it's not a very difficult technique to do. It's associated with, with some of the greatest players, but it's not, sweeping itself is not a very hard technique to get down once you understand how it works. So simply put, a sweep pick would be you're giving enough force onto the string to get to the next string. You could always stop it at whatever point because it's not that forceful of a stroke, but you would always end up on the string underneath it or on top of it. If you're strumming down, you would stop on the bottommost string, the one that you're not going to strike. And if you're coming back up, you would stop on the top string that you're not going to strike. So if we're doing just like, say, the top three strings, you're going to end up on the G string. If you're going to do the bottom three coming up, you're going to end up on the D string, not hitting it. All right, so that's really all sweep picking is. It's just that simple motion of going. So now I'm just muting the string so we're not getting any sound yet. But really, when we get into using the chords, this is when we're going to talk about arpeggios. So all an arpeggio is playing all the notes of a chord individually. So that's all an arpeggio is. So, and obviously I did a sweep when I did that. So it's pretty simple. It's pretty basic. A lot of beginners actually do those things without realizing that that's a sweep pick arpeggio. So that's really all it is. So, I mean, we could just end the video there going, okay, boom, you got it. Now go play some chords and do that sweep picking technique. But that's probably not what you're here for. You're here to learn all the cool stuff that the guys do in the guitar solos. So that's what we want to get to anyway. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a couple patterns. So this is the first pattern. This is an E minor arpeggio pattern. All right. So remember, we're just taking the notes of the chord and playing them individually. So we actually found this chord in two spots here. So the chord is made up of three notes: E, G, and B. Those are our three notes. So those are the first three notes in this arpeggio. And that's all the notes that we have here. If you look back, we're coming right back to those same notes. And this is the same thing: E, G, and B. And then we just go in reverse. All right, so let's do this first pattern. So remember, this is a sweep pick thing. So all the way until we get to here, it's just going to be complete downstroke all the way down. Okay, so, and we treat it as one stroke, not as like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 individual strokes. We're just going to treat it as one stroke. So we've gotten that. So I always like to start this one off with my pinky. So I'll put my pinky here on the 7th fret. Then we'll go middle finger to the 5th fret and first finger to the 4th fret. The middle finger stays on 5, just move down there. And then we reach over to the 3rd fret on the first finger again. Now I'm going to reach my pinky back over to 7. And then go back to 3. Back down to 5, 4, 5, 7. And that's the pattern. So now the only thing that really makes this difficult is, one, just making sure that your fingers and your pick hand are in sync with each other. So that does take a little bit of practice to get down. But it shouldn't take a long time to get that down if you've been playing for a while, and if you're really up to doing this video lesson. It shouldn't take you that long to get that technique down. Now when we get to here, you have an option. You could do a hammer-on, or you could do a pull-off to play that whole thing if you want to. It's up to you. So it depends however you feel. I like to do it both ways. It doesn't matter. It just depends on how I'm going to use this arpeggio. whether it be in a solo somewhere or rhythmically, what I'm trying to do with it. So it depends. You know, if you want to practice picking it the whole way, that's fine. If you want to try doing a hammer-on pull-off thing there, that's okay too. So, and you can vary it any which way you want. So let's do that again. So we get that down, and you know, you definitely want to clean it up. It can get a little sloppy. So one thing I like to do is after every note, I rest my hand on the string above the one I just did, or the one below it. So as I'm going down, my hand is like stopping the other strings. And then I use this hand actually to mute the other strings when I'm coming back up. So for some people, it takes a little more time to work on getting those points down. It was harder for me personally to use this hand to mute the strings for some reason when doing these arpeggios. But I found a way when I was coming back up to use my fret hand to mute the strings. So I started doing it like that. All right, so work on that one. That's a really good one. And I'm going to show you like ways we can break this thing up and use it in solos. So one thing we can do is we can take, let's say we take just these notes right here. So we're going to go, and we can put these in any order we want. So let's say we're going to start 7. We're going to go 7, 3, 5, okay? So you can just throw that in there in a song somewhere. And I'm sure you've heard that or something similar to that before. So that's one way we can use that. Or we can actually just go, let's say we do this all the way to here. So we can go 7, 3, 5, 4, break it up like that. And you're in a solo already, so. And you can mess around with it like that. Or we can go up and then come back down, right? So we can go. Or we can do something like that. So here, this time I'm going 4, 5, 3, 7, 3, 5, 4, right? So. And that's another way you can use that. So you want to look at like not just playing this arpeggio, but seeing like how you can break it apart and use different pieces of it. So then now this time I'm going 7, 5, 4, 5, 4, 7. Then I played a little bit of the scale in this area here. So I'm like going. Something like that. And you can mess around with it and play around between this arpeggio and using the scale. All right, so that's the first one. Now I'm going to show you the major pattern that matches this key. Okay, so here we have the G major pattern for the sweep arpeggio. So we're going to do, it's a similar thing. It's a little different with the fingers. So it's not like if you practice the other one, you're going to have this one down cold. You'll have to also practice this one because you're going to have to use different fingers. Okay, so here we're going to start on 10 because G major and E minor are relative keys to each other, which basically means that it's the same notes, they just have a different starting point. So they work beautifully together, and if you get a buddy to do this one while you play the other one, you guys will actually be playing a really cool sounding harmony. So go ahead, if you got a friend, you can try this one with your friend and you guys can play it together and harmonize with each other. It'll sound really cool the whole way, up and down, as long as you guys are in sync. Okay, so let's start this one off. As always, or I shouldn't say as always, but most of the time with these types of patterns, I like to start off with my pinky. Some people just don't like to use the pinky, but I always recommend using it. It's a valuable asset. So this one also starts off with the pinky on the 10th fret. And then we're going to go 9 with the ring finger. And then 7 on the first finger. So now we're going to use our middle finger for 8. And then 7. And then 10 with the pinky again. Back to 7. Then to 8 again. 7, 9, 10. All right, so you can hear how they would match. So you can hear how these two match. Okay, so now same story here with this one is that you can break these apart and you can play different pieces of them. So that one was just going 10, 7, 8, like that. Just doing those three. And guys like to do that in solos. You'll hear that sometimes. So it's pretty cool. You hear that a lot in like those, I guess, a lot of those metal bands will use little pieces of arpeggio like that and stuff like that. So you can do it like that, and we can break them up the same way again. Or you can just come straight up from here. Let's say you go 7, 8, 7, 9, 10. You can do that, and then you can also mess around with the scale a little bit as well. So that's a really good one to work on, because obviously if you're going to do a minor one, there's always a major key in that minor key that you're playing. So even though we're playing like E minor and going, and then you can throw some arpeggios in there and stuff like that. And like, so you can throw some other stuff in there and it'll still sound good. So you want to mess around with that. My recommendation is play along with some backing tracks, or if you have your own music, try adding these into there and see what you can come up with. Get a little creative with it. You know, of course, you don't want to just stay stuck in the arpeggio, so you could do something where you kind of add a note from the scale in here. So we have... So I'm just adding the 7th note that would be here on this string to add, and I'm coming right back. So mess around with it and you'll find some really cool stuff to do with this. All right, so another thing is that we can always look at these from the octave viewpoint as well. So if you didn't know this already, the 12th fret is exactly the same as the open string, just an octave higher. So everything that we play here, we can also play here. So if we're playing on the 7th fret on the A string, or the 10th fret on the A string, we would have to just move up 7 or 10 frets from here. So on my guitar, this 19th fret would act as this. See how that's actually the same note, just an octave higher. So you can try moving that, and then the 10th fret would be the 22nd fret on here, which now I'm kind of running out of room, so it gets really hard to play these arpeggio ups here, but you can still make it happen. And as long as you know it here, you definitely got to practice it high up too, because it's really, it's like a totally different ball game playing on these little tiny frets here, and it takes time to get adjusted to playing like that. So whatever we're practicing up on these lower frets, you want to play up on these higher frets as well, because you want to be able to develop that technique up here as well. So even if we're breaking it down here, like, we want to do it up here as well. All right, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit notifications so that you can check out all the latest videos coming.